Well, one thing I see is that couples that are in this struggle in one area tend to be in the same struggle in multiple areas because it's not just about the different positions, it's about how they handle it. And so it's about, even if you don't care very much about keeping the countertops clear, if you are married to someone who cares a lot about that and you care about them and you care about your impact on them, do you push yourself to help with that? Or do you just take like a rigid position of this doesn't matter to me, and so I'm going to brush you off anytime you talk to me about it, and I'm not going to put any real effort into this. Okay. And so depending on which way you go, this may have a a ripple effect on how your spouse who really wants the counters clears feels when she gets into bed with you and how interested she is in sex. That couples that are in like this type of power struggle, there's like limited caring, limited investment, which is going to show up in other areas as well, and it tends to find its ways to sort of balance out where your partner will find a way to get back at you.
Welcome to the Differentiated Love and Sex Podcast. I'm Jackie Aston. I'm a licensed psychotherapist and coach with over a decade of experience working with individuals and couples to strengthen their mental health and improve their relationships.
I'm Catherine Roebuck, and I work with couples and individuals as a relationship coach on growing closer to each other while staying true to themselves. And today we're going to talk about something that shows up in many areas of long-term relationships, which is that the person who cares less or who wants something less always seems to have more power.
That gets very frustrating especially for couples who are in a power struggle.
Right. So this shows up around sex for a lot of couples where there's one person who's more interested and one who's less interested. And the person with less interest ends up being the one who decides what you do, how often you do it, just through the process of elimination, that they take off the table everything that they say no to. And you're only left with the things they say yes to. So they can narrow the menu and they can limit the frequency. And that can be very difficult for the higher desire partner to have something that they want very much and to realize that they actually have less power to make it happen, less
I
say over it.
I think the higher desire partner can feel pretty controlled over it. They can think, well,
Sure.
why are we doing things on your terms? Why are we only having sex once every 2 weeks?
Hmm.
And they can get angry and resentful about it. And the lower desire partner is thinking, well, I only want sex once every 2 weeks. So that's all we're going to do. And the higher desire partner has a hard time with that, understandably so.
The lower desire partner often feels pressured and like they're already going beyond what they actually want for themselves as well. That maybe they're not sure that sex is that great at all, or they only want it once a month, but they're doing it every 2 weeks, and they're like, stop putting so much pressure on me.
And
And
they're
the pressure is partly coming from the partner, but it's also partly just coming from the marriage. That you're in a committed sexual relationship, and so there's pressure to address sex.
Mhm, mhm. So the lower desire partner is oftentimes trying to compromise. Not always. Sometimes they're trying to compromise and they're saying, you know what, I'll have sex every 2 weeks. And that's actually a stretch for me. If you weren't going to bother me about it, I could go once a month, but I'm now saying once every 2 weeks. And they're feeling, like you said, already kind of like, oh, I'm accommodating.
Right. Yeah. So this can apply in any area really. Um, and so it can be about sex, but it could also be about who wants the house to be tidy more. That whoever cares less about that has more influence over how tidy the house is than the one that cares more. And there's a funny story that Dr. Schnarch told that I heard him tell in a workshop that was he was working with a couple, and the wife came into a session and said, "I want to end our marriage. I want a divorce." And the husband said, "Why do we always have to do what you want to do?"
That's funny, yeah.
So it's a situation where she's lower desire for staying married, and of course she can choose that unilaterally.
Yes, yes. Yeah, sometimes it's helpful to look at this dynamic outside of sex first and then inside of sex because sometimes sex can feel more triggering for couples and um versus like if we look at the house, who wants the house
Mhm.
tidier? That's just one example. It could come up in parenting, it could come up in workload, other things. But let's talk about the house. So let's say I want the house tidier than my partner. Then that puts me in a position of saying, this is important to me. And maybe he doesn't care that much about it. So maybe he doesn't want to put in as much effort or as much time. So, we both see this in our sessions. So then what do you do about that, Catherine?
So are you talking about, like, what the higher desire partner can do?
I think it kind of happened. What needs to happen between the couple, right?
Mhm.
Because I'm putting this is a more stereotypical example where the female wants the house to be tidier than the
Mhm.
male. So it's higher desire for cleanliness, let's
Mhm.
call it, or organization. And the male partners, this is stereotypical, not a big as big of a deal. And
Mhm.
it's actually not a problem that they have differences in values here or wants. But the way they go about it, what I see is there's one partner, so let's say the wife wants the house tidy. She is doing a whole lot in the house, and the husband's not doing anything or very minimally. Or she's pressuring the husband to make sure the house is all tidy and clean, and he's feeling nagged and resentful. And they're in this all the time. They're in the house all the time. So I'm thinking about how this working with the both parts of this dynamic.
Well, one thing I see is that couples that are in this struggle in one area tend to be in the same struggle in multiple areas because it's not just about the different positions, it's about how they handle it. And so it's about, even if you don't care very much about keeping the countertops clear, if you are married to someone who cares a lot about that and you care about them and you care about your impact on them, do you push yourself to help with that? Or do you just take like a rigid position of this doesn't matter to me, and so I'm going to brush you off anytime you talk to me about it, and I'm not gonna put any real effort into this. Okay. And so depending on which way you go, this may have a ripple effect on how your spouse who really wants the counters clears feels when she gets into bed with you and how interested she is in sex. That couples that are in like this type of power struggle, there's like limited caring, limited investment, which is going to show up in other areas as well, and it tends to find its ways to sort of balance out where your partner will find a way to get back at you, and it might be in another area, or even if they're not coming from a place of getting back at you, like it will just lower their feeling of we're on the same team and their feeling of warmth and affection and some of the things that can drive positive behavior. So for getting out of it, I think it's a good thing for both people to look at like what they want and why and the impact they're having. Like if you're the partner that really cares about having a clean house and you're thinking this is what's going to make like when it's clean, that's when we can all relax, but you're keeping everyone really worked up and stressed, most of the time to try to achieve this like theoretical relaxation, maybe you do need to take a look at, are my standards realistic for this part of life where maybe we're raising a bunch of kids or we're both busy with our careers, maybe I actually need to lower my standards a little bit, ease up. But the partner who's just acting like this doesn't matter could take themselves on about, am I invested in my spouse's happiness? Do I take seriously what they want even when it's different from what I want?
Yeah, I think in this example, it's easy also for the other partner, for example, the male partner, to be upset with the female who is nagging that the countertops are clean. And he might not want to get into bed with a woman who is on his case all the time about it. And so focused on that, feeling like, is this all that matters to you? That this is where all of your energy is. So it's not a good position for him to be in either, or for her, because it's more about then there's judgment towards the other. You shouldn't want this way, and the way you're handling it, because you do want it, is to be nagging me, maybe calling me lazy, maybe acting morally superior than me, and then now they're just so deep in the conflict and hard feelings with each other that it does have a big impact on sex and the friendship as well.
Yeah, definitely. And so if you're not going to nag your partner, what do you do about this?
Yes. This is really interesting because that's actually a common thought is, well, they're not my partner's not gonna do anything.
Mm.
I'm not pointing what they need to do. If I'm not reminding them, I need to be their reminder or they
Mhm.
get done.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that comes up there is you want you don't want to be in a dynamic where you have to be the reminder because that feels like parent child. And so you don't want to do it. And instead of finding out whether there's an option for this to go differently, if you're willing to give that up, a lot of people they stay in it because they're like, well, I just don't think it'll happen if I'm not nagging. And they're not addressing like as long as they're doing this, they guarantee they'll never have what they want, which is a self-motivated proactive partner who's
Yes.
engaged.
Yes, or a passionate marriage because
Sure.
now they're in a parent-child dynamic, and that's not very sexy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keeps
That's
going.
one of the real reasons to take this on is that it does, even if it's mainly showing up in other areas right now, over time, it always takes a hit on sex when you get into a parent-child kind of dynamic with your spouse.
Yes. When I'm working with the low desire partner, if that's for sex, cleanliness, parenting, who doesn't wanna focus as much on the parenting, relationship, I often think about helping that person see if there are areas where they are letting themselves off the hook. This is not really about values. Like I think it's more important to spend time with my family than dusting the house today, for example. If it's not that, it's more about actually, I just don't want to give effort here, or I don't want to face what I need to face. That I need to either manage my time better, I need to be considerate of somebody else's wants or needs. And so I think that's sort of the first thing is looking at the low desire person, why their desire is low, if they're letting themselves off the hook, or if their desire is low because um, so, for example, with sex, they don't want to have sex with somebody who's treating them badly. So, it's actually good judgment, and their desire is low because the sexual relationship is not a good one to have.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a really key thing that a lot of couples haven't considered very much before is that the person who wants something less, especially around sex, it can often be coming from a place of good judgment, actually. Most adults want to have a sexual relationship. And so when you get to a point that you are pulling away from it, you're disengaging, you're avoiding it, there's often some pretty strong reasons for that that are worth taking seriously. And it's easy for the high desire partner to be like, why don't you want more of this good thing? And it's like, okay, let's take that as a real question. There can be a real answer to that.
Yeah. What have you seen with your clients? Why they wouldn't want sex with their partner, and good reasons for low desire here.
I do think the parent child thing is a huge, huge aspect of it. That your desire, authentic desire, exists between people who are peers. And when there's a serious hierarchy, it kills desire. And that's like overall a good thing. There's a lot of problems with combining power hierarchies and sex. And so it's a protective thing in our brains that tends to kill desire. And so you don't want to override it. You want to deal with um, a parent-child dynamic between a committed couple is going to be some version of overfunctioning and underfunctioning that's going on. And the thing about overfunctioning and underfunctioning is it's false on both sides. And so both people are putting on a show of functioning at a different level than they're actually capable of. So one is appearing to function better than they really do. The other is appearing to function worse than they really can. Um, but it's dysfunctional on both sides, and it kills desire on both sides. And so I'd say that's the top thing that I see. What about you?
I think the emotional load or the mental load is oftentimes what comes up for low desire partners is they feel like they're doing a lot. And so they feel like sex can be one more thing to do or to take care of their spouse. So they don't have desire to do more. Um, they might have low desire because their partner really isn't invested in them, isn't curious about their mind, what they're doing, showing up for them. So they don't want to be just a body and sex. They want to be a person and to be respected and cared about. So that's good judgment to not want to have sex with somebody who isn't that invested in you. Um, and I think there's also low desire if there could be pain from the past with the relationship or trauma is sort of if I show up in this vulnerable way sexually with my partner. Um, I've been hurt by this partner in the past. They've been critical of me, or someone else has hurt me in this way. So I guess I wouldn't say that's good judgment, actually. I would just say it makes sense why it would be difficult and why desire would be low. Um, and maybe that's another thing to bring up is what are areas where it's not good judgment to have low desire?
Uh-huh.
I don't want to have desire for sex. Maybe this could be somebody because I don't want to share my sexual mind with somebody and to be judged. Or I don't know that I don't have a guarantee that the person's always going to be with me. So I don't really want to put myself out there. That's not good judgment if the person that you're with is somebody who's you respect.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, we can turn ourselves off in our own minds with how we think about sex as well. And so it's not always about your partner. This can be about what ideas about sex and about like my own identity as a sexual person and what it's like to share my body or my erotic mind with somebody. What do I already carry that I would bring with me into any relationship? And that can be from your background and your family or a religious upbringing, or it can be from trauma. It can be from a lot of different things. For a lot of people, like you raised this point of low desire partners that just feel like they already do a lot and they don't want to do one more thing. And they're relating to sex like it's one more thing on the to-do list. Okay, that's not sexy. That's going to turn anybody off. And so, if you're thinking about it that way and you're just thinking about like, how do I get this over with, right before throwing in another load of laundry and filling out the summer camp forms, like, um, you've got to like take on the meanings that you're bringing to it and that you're looking at this. I've worked with some low desire people, for example, that are not willing to let their partner give them pleasure. And they treat sex like it's entirely about their partner's orgasm. And the whole point of the encounter is to get that over with as quickly as possible. Okay. No wonder you don't like sex. You're not really giving yourself an experience of pleasure, arousal, relaxation, any of the things that can make sex beautiful. And so you may need to take on like your difficulty with receiving pleasure, with vulnerability or exposure, letting someone into your body or your mind. Um, or for some people, like I had a client bring up in a very honest way, like, I really have a hard time being generous. Like, that's a limitation for me. I don't like to be generous with my partner. I like to keep them in a position where they're giving more to me than I give back. And that feels validating. It feels safe and secure. It feels, it gives you a sense of control and of always being wanted. But it's not very nice. So you'd have to take that on in yourself.
Yes. Well, so if you're the low desire partner for sex and you're getting in your own way, then it is working on your own issues. If it's vulnerability, if it's seeing yourself as desirable, that's a common one is, well, I'm not that great, or someone else is going to think I'm not that great. If you think you are desirable enough, you decide what it really means to be desirable, then you can show up more. Um, but if you think that, your low desire is really about there's relationship issues and it's good judgment for me that I have low desire here, then it would be taking on the relationship issues with your partner
Mhm,
and with yourself about how are you playing into that. So if you're a low desire, and you're just not putting in any effort or not caring or not engaging with your partner, then it would be facing that part in you. So you have to deal with that to be able to shift the relationship.
mhm. Yeah, and so having the courage to face this stuff directly instead of it can be kind of a passive aggressive way to handle it, to just, like, um, check out from sex, but not really have a conversation. And so it takes real courage to face directly, like, okay, and sometimes it's even simpler things, like there's a hygiene issue that I have not brought up with my partner, or I've brought it up, but they didn't take it seriously, and I've never directly said, uh, "I need you to always brush your teeth before kissing me." Like, that would make a serious difference for my ability to get in the mood with you. And to do it in a way that's not, like, mean, but is really clear.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense, sort of setting the stage for what would help you, show up show up in a sexual relationship.
Mhm,
I think, again, that can be a good thing. So someone is to not then have sex with somebody who isn't considering, for example, their hygiene, it's their teeth, showering, that, that is one way that your partner can start to notice if they do care about sex, that you're not up for that, that you don't want to get, you know, the smells or potential UTIs or anything like that, that you're not up for sex. That's good judgment. But I would be clear about that with your partner. And then you can't make somebody shower. You can't make somebody brush their teeth. So I think it's um, standing by that you're really the reason why you're not having sex with them is because it's not good for you. And
mhm.
if they are willing to change, then you're open to sex with them.
Yeah, and you could also look for opportunities to initiate when they have just showered or they have just brushed
Yes.
their teeth, to reinforce, like, this actually is what I want and it does make a difference to me.
Yes.
So it's not just a way to fend you off.
Yes. Yeah, I think that there's certainly that would be helpful too. I'm thinking about the high desire partner who wants, so whether it could be the house clean or who wants sex more.
Mhm,
It could be easy to guilt the other person and say, well, you just don't care about my needs and you only focus on what you want. And um, you're not giving, and just start with the sort of that judgment piece. And that is a way that the conversation usually just, gets shut down. The other partner probably isn't going to handle it well. And it's not good for you just to be looking at your partner like they're the problem. So when you have you're in a relationship with a high desire partner who wants the house clean or who wants sex, is, you're probably feeling the pressure. You know what? I switched this. I'm talking
mm,
about the high desire
mhm,
person, but I
yeah,
do think that the low desire person tends to feel a lot of pressure and then can give
mhm,
when they actually it's not wise. It's not good to have sex with
sure,
somebody who, is treating you badly, or probably if they're not clean or something like that. But the high desire partner has to really look at themselves and seeing how are they engaging with their partner? Is it a way that actually encourages what they want? Or is it a way
Yeah.
that pushes their partner away? That's like, if you're nagging them, that's not gonna get you, or sulking,
Mhm.
haven't had sex,
Yeah.
that's not gonna get your partner to wanna have more sex with you.
You know, one dynamic that I've seen with quite a few couples is that I see this where men are the higher desire partner for sex, and what I see is they will do something that feels flirtatious or sexy to them that their wife does not like. Whether it's like grabbing her or it's often like they move in way too fast with some type of sexual touch. And they do it, just in the middle of the day and she's in the middle of something else and she doesn't like it. Or they make some type of comment that feels objectifying to her that doesn't feel romantic or flirtatious in a way she likes. It just feels like sexual. And sometimes people say like it's porny. And so you've got to look at like, okay, even if you really, really want this and you're really turned on, if you're going about trying to get it by doing things that turn your partner off, you're working against your own interests. And so step one is like, you got to stop yourself from doing those things, even if they would work on you, even if you would love for your partner to aggressively grab you as they pass you in the kitchen, but you know that that's not true for them. So you've got to stop yourself from doing it and really think about like, am I offering something here that's an invitation into a good experience, or does it really come through as demands, critique, judgment, neediness? And so I really encourage higher desire people to think about like, what's it like to invite? What's it like to um, try to, encourage and draw flirtatious energy in a positive way and instead of with like these more defended positions actually that where you're scared of rejection and so you're going into it in a way that already has rejection built in.
Yeah. It's interesting. I feel like what I'll hear from women is they'll say, my partner just like, initiated sex just by touching my breasts. And there was,
Yeah.
like, I'm in the middle of changing
Yeah.
and they're frustrated about it. And I actually think that there is a way to make it work where there is the other partner, if that is a turn on for them, that they can uh touch their partner's breasts if they want to do. But the way that they go about it is, the female is in the middle of changing, getting ready for her day, and, you know, she feels kind of objectified by her breasts being grabbed, and it's not the time. So it
Mhm.
was a different time. If maybe some of the other things that needed to be done were taken care of, then that's a possibility. Or maybe there's been some other movement into sex first, and then that happens. So it doesn't have to be like completely off the table, but just sort of how they go about it does turn off the partner and doesn't work.
Yeah, and I think very often there has to be a much slower, smoother lead in. And so, like, you don't want the moment that you realize your partner does not want this to be when you already have your hands on her breasts. That's
Yes.
too far into it to realize she does not want this. Like, you've got to slow yourself down on your approach so that, like, she can track you. I mean, if you watch it's like watching in movies when a couple has their first kiss. There's often like they make eye contact, they move in slowly. There's a lot of communication happening non-verbally that is letting them both know like I want to do this. Do you want to do this? Yeah. We both want to. Okay, we do it. And so thinking about like slowing yourself down, having a more sensual, more flirtatious approach. And not just I mean, honestly, I think people go fast sometimes because of their own anxiety and that they have a hard time tolerating moving slower and being having it be more of an invitation and more sensual. But that you've got a better chance if you can slow yourself down. Like give your partner, a few seconds here to evaluate in her mind, like, do I have 5 minutes to kind of lean into a kiss or into some type of sexual touch? Can I get my mind there right now? And it does take a little bit more time.
Yes, which is different than, in these long-term relationships, because if this were just like a hookup, okay,
Sure.
that's sort of the idea, is this is just how we're gonna approach sex, but,
Mhm.
it's different in long-term relationships, especially when you're
Mhm.
sharing, there's responsibilities, so you're not the encounter isn't isolated so much of like, "Okay, this is just hookup sex." This is
Right.
equal relationship.
Right. Yeah, the context is so different. And I mean, another thing I talk to high desire partners about is what do you actually want here? Especially if they're in a pattern where they're often initiating sex that they're then unhappy with because the sex itself ends up being pretty bland, short, orgasm focused, and at the end they still feel like they were accommodated, but they weren't really desired and or met. Um, and so like pushing on yourself about, do I really think I'm going to get what I want here? And why do I keep signing up for and going along with a sexual experience that leaves me disappointed and not satisfied? And I maybe need to have like get more real with myself and my partner about this isn't just about wanting sex. Like this is about I want you to want me. I want to feel desired sometimes. And if there's things that I'm doing that I need to change, if there's things I'm not doing that I need to start doing, like I'm actually open to doing something about that from my side and not just pressuring you that you need to do a better job of faking it. But uh high desire can come from a needy place. It can come from a place where you're just looking for reassurance that would be false reassurance, validation that would be dishonest.
Yes. And you might be getting more quantity, but you're certainly not getting more quality. So it goes
Mhm.
back to, am I accepting these terms that, okay, my partner will give me or have sex with me, but they'll do it in a way that's out of duty versus really desiring to be with me in the moment. And that's just, then that even though the high desire partner is having more sex, that also gets tracked by that higher desire partner. My partner isn't really that into me, doesn't really want to be here. And then that
Mhm.
is still there, even though sex is happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've worked with couples where they are regularly having sex 5 times a week. The high desire partner still feels undesired because they know they're being accommodated. And they're pushing for a 6th time a week to try to solve this, and that it's not going to solve it. And so we have to have a different conversation about like um there's something you're trying to get here that you're not going to get with how you're going about it. Like it won't happen. It's not that you need it a little bit more often. It's you're trying to get something that's qualitatively different than what you can extract from a partner who's accommodating you.
Yes. And then sometimes that high desire partner makes it about, well, I guess I need to open the relationship because I need to have
Mhm.
more sex.
Sure.
And then that's not really what's going on about the frequency. It's really about the sexual experience with your partner, that you see that you're not desired. Now,
Yeah.
it could be for good reason, or it could be something else that the low desire partner needs to deal with. So
Mhm.
both people need to deal with something in that situation. And opening the marriage because of that is not going to solve the low desire in the relationship either, or improve the sexual experience between the two.
Yeah. Open marriages don't solve what was already going on in the couple. And so they can give individuals another way to have a sexual experience or an emotional connection. And sometimes that can stabilize a relationship, but the the sadness or rejection or resentment that already existed in the married couple persists in the open marriages that I've worked with.
Yes. So maybe the relationship can keep going the way it is, because it is
Mhm.
stable in that there's someone else distracting the high desire partner who feels like they're not getting enough sex or the quality of sex they want.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't really address the issue with the couple and create something better for them.
Yeah, that's really challenging work to do. I mean, it really means taking on like your dependence on external validation, your how desirable are you really with how you actually show up and treat your partner. It's not really typically about how you look or how often you go to the gym. Not that that plays no role, but there's so much that's just about how do you treat each other that can make it really hard to want to open up to somebody sexually. And it's just difficult work. There's not really a shortcut out of it because it's developmental, it's personal growth.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. I mean, I think if we're going, this is going back to the high desire, low desire person for a clean house. Um, I guess what I'm thinking about is what is the couple really willing to do here and what agreements do they have around it? Um, so, is it are both people really gonna be working on this? Are they gonna both be honest about what they're committing to and agreeing to, or are they just gonna kinda nod along and say, "Yes, I'll do it," similar to sex, "Yes, I'll do it," but they're not really agreeing to creating something better. And so, I think oftentimes this is where therapy and coaching helps a couple because it's really can be hard to get out of these dynamics. And it's easier to think, well, my low desire partner should increase their desire. My high desire partner should decrease their high desire. And
Yeah.
that is not, that wanting it is one thing, but actually having it happen, that's not what's going to happen. So I think to get clearer on this and just to figure out what is going on in the relationship, therapy and coaching really can help this. And it can help couples who are trying to figure out, do I want to open my marriage or not?
Mhm.
Is it really going to be what I think it's going to be?
Yeah.
So you don't have to do it alone, but certainly getting out of the dynamic is going to be better for both of you.
Yeah, it's incredibly hard to do it alone because you're trying to get a systems view where you've got like a balanced perspective on how each of you contributes to stabilizing this the way it is. And it's inherently hard to track yourself. Like that's just how our brains work, that it's easier to track the other person than ourselves. And then this is such an emotionally charged topic that it becomes even more difficult to track yourself accurately on it. So you get if you work with a therapist or coach that can take a systems view and can help you see like how the pieces fit together, it can open up really creative paths out of the gridlock. And that's true for whether this is about keeping the house clean or it's about how much and the type of sex you're having.
Yeah, I think what I see when I'm working with couples, they kind of feel like their partner is being the unfair one. And I think when they, come to therapy or coaching, they actually get a better sense of what they're doing and how they're co-constructing the relationship. Maybe not what they were hoping for, but then actually it is more in their hands about what they're going to do. So you can really shift the relationship. It changes if you're no longer playing into the dynamic the way you typically are. And
Yeah.
that's some hope there, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not quite like compromise. It's not like 50-50 meet in the middle, but there is a way that as this improves for couples, it's often both people shifting. And so the high desire partner, they might continue to be the high desire partner. They might always want more novelty, more frequency, but they learn to like settle themselves down about it so that they can talk about it without being mean, impatient, um, needy, and that they can also like really take on everything on their side that could create conditions that would be inviting for this. And the low desire partner, um, they can actually start to address like what are some of the things that are either strong breaks for them that they could start to take the pressure off themselves and open themselves up to more pleasure or more desire or something like that. And then also look at like how much have they really connected with their own eroticism or their own sexuality, their desire. And if they're willing to explore that, often there are things that would work for them. And they've maybe been overwhelmed by their partner's like constant requests and enthusiasm. And so they felt like the last thing I want to do is add more like more to the topic and the focus on sex. And so if the high desire partner can settle down, it often does create some space for the low desire partner to actually connect more with sexuality and with their own desires.
Yes. And is there something that they need to address with their partner in terms of relationship issues about why they don't want to have sex with them? Is there something they need to work through with them that would then open the door to wanting more sex or wanting a better relationship? Um, but one of the things that happens is the high desire partner can punish the low desire partner for not doing what they want, not having sex, they sulk the next day, or not cleaning the house. They, I don't know, take over and then blame the person for how hard it was for them to clean the whole house
Yeah.
and I think that punishing just perpetuates the cycle as well. So if
Yeah.
you're going to be constantly either motivating or reminding your partner or punishing them, it's like you're really taking over their work. They need to motivate themselves. They need to do what they need to do to give more. Um, and you punishing them then also doesn't encourage them to wanna do anything else. They can easily dismiss you for punishing them and saying, "Well, now you're the problem. It's not me."
Hmm. Yeah.
So I think, for our audience who's listening to this, thinking about, first, am I a high desire partner or low desire partner? And this can switch, in relationships, but usually there's one high desire, one low desire partner. Where am I high desire? Where am I low desire? Because maybe in a sex I'm high desire, but in emotional intimacy I'm low desire. Just getting a better sense of yourself with that. And where might I need to shift myself in order to shift the relationship? Or do I need to reach out for some additional support with therapy or coaching so I can get out of this dynamic? But it doesn't have to be that way. So feel free to send us questions or comments about this. Um, we're glad you joined us for the Differentiated Love and Sex podcast, and we're excited to have you join next week with us.
We would love it if you would subscribe and share with your friends and family.